I still remember the day I first heard about her. The girl everyone whispered about, the one whose name carried both fear and awe through the school hallways. Her story wasn't written in the school yearbook or displayed on trophies. It was etched in hushed conversations, in the silence of those who once mocked her, and in the trembling eyes of the very bullies who thought they had broken her. She was just an ordinary teenager, but one moment, one daring act, changed everything. And it all began with the day she was tied up in the rafters of the gym, humiliated in front of her classmates. That's the story I want to share with you today, because it's not just her story, it's about all of us who have faced cruelty and wondered if we were strong enough to rise above it. Before I take you into the heart of this journey, let me ask you, have you ever felt cornered, mocked, or stripped of your dignity by people who thought they had the power to define you? If you have, then I want you to stay with me till the very end of this story, because her victory will light a fire inside you. And if you're new here, don't forget to like and subscribe to Echoes of Life, where we bring you the most powerful, emotional stories that remind you that strength isn't about size or popularity, it's about courage. Her name was Leah, a quiet girl who had only recently moved into town. She had the kind of presence that was almost invisible at first, shoulders hunched, books clutched tightly against her chest, eyes that flickered away the second someone tried to meet them. But sometimes, invisibility is what makes a person the target. The bullies noticed her silence. They noticed her thrift store clothes, her worn-out sneakers, and her hesitant stammer whenever she was called on in class. And in their eyes, she was the perfect prey. The ringleader was a boy named Jackson, captain of the basketball team, son of a wealthy businessman, and the type of student teachers looked the other way for because he carried charm like a mask. Around him swirled his loyal crew, who laughed at his cruel jokes and followed him as though cruelty was the only currency of belonging. Leah's torment began small. A shove in the hallway. Her books scattered across the floor. Notes passed around class with her name scrawled in ugly caricatures. The whispers grew louder each day, and while she told herself to endure it, her heart was fracturing piece by piece. But nothing compared to the day of the rally. It was supposed to be just another Friday afternoon, where the school gathered in the gym to cheer for the basketball team. The bleachers were filled, the noise deafening. Leah had slipped in quietly, hoping to disappear into the background. But Jackson noticed her. His smirk widened when he saw her sitting alone. And then he whispered to his friends. What followed was nothing short of cruel theater. They cornered her under the bleachers before the assembly began. The rope was pulled from one of the gym's storage closets, a prop for climbing exercises. In a whirlwind of laughter and force, Leah found herself bound. The bullies dragged her, their cruel hands tightening around her arms, and before she could even scream loud enough to be heard, they had hoisted her up into the rafters of the gym, tying her there like she was some kind of joke. The moment the rally started, the lights shifted, the cheerleaders danced, and the crowd roared for the team. And there, above them all, hidden at first but slowly revealed as eyes began to wander upward, was Leah. Suspended. Humiliated. Her heart pounded in her chest, every beat screaming for escape, every breath catching as the rope dug into her wrists. The laughter of her tormentors echoed in her ears like poison. But Leah wasn't made of glass. Beneath the fragile surface of fear lived a fire that had been waiting, starved, but alive. And when survival is the only option, even the quietest souls find their roar. As the gym erupted below her, Leah closed her eyes. She remembered something her late father had once told her, that courage isn't about being unafraid, it's about fighting even when fear is all you have left. She bit down on the rope, twisting, pulling, until the fibers began to fray. Her arms burned, her body ached, but she didn't stop. And then, in one daring, defiant move, Leah freed herself. The rope snapped. The gym fell silent. Every pair of eyes turned upward as Leah landed hard but on her feet, stumbling but alive. Her breath came in sharp bursts, but in that moment, she was no longer invisible. She was undeniable. The rally turned into chaos. Teachers rushed in. The bullies froze, their smirks replaced with pale horror. Leah, though trembling, stood tall. Something had shifted in her eyes, an awakening. She wasn't broken. She was reborn. That was the day everything changed. What happened after Leah's fall from the rafters didn't end with gasps in the gym. No, the story only grew louder, bolder, more unshakable. Because in a world where bullies thrive on silence, Leah refused to stay silent any longer. The principal's office became a battleground. Teachers, parents, and students flooded with stories they had been too afraid to share before. Leah's daring escape had cracked the wall of fear. Suddenly, others found their voice. Students who had been mocked for their weight, their skin color, their poverty, all came forward. The bullies weren't just exposed, they were stripped of their power. But Leah's journey wasn't just about bringing others down, it was about lifting herself up. At first, she wanted to disappear, to hide from the constant stares that now followed her everywhere. She didn't want to be known as the girl who had been tied to the rafters. But slowly, she realized that her story wasn't one of shame, it was one of survival. And survival is power. She began small. She joined a self-defense class, where every punch and every kick taught her not just strength of body but strength of spirit. She started speaking up in class, her voice shaky at first, then steadier with each passing day. She found friends who had once been shadows like her, and together, they built each other up. Meanwhile, Jackson and his crew faced consequences they had never imagined. Suspension. Loss of privileges. Whispers of their downfall spread like wildfire, and the masks they wore began to crumble. For the first time, they weren't admired, they were pitted. And pitiful was the last thing they had ever wanted to be. But the true triumph wasn't in the punishment of the bullies, it was in the transformation of Leah. Months later, she stood on the stage of that very same gym, no longer hanging above in humiliation but standing tall before the entire school. It was a student assembly, one organized not to celebrate sports or trophies, but to honor resilience, courage, and the power of standing up. Leah was invited to speak. Her voice carried through the rafters where she had once hung. She spoke not with bitterness but with strength. She told her classmates that no rope, no cruelty, and no bully could define who she was. And when she finished, the silence that followed wasn't the silence of shock, it was the silence of respect. I want you to pause and imagine that moment. Imagine Leah standing tall where she once hung. Imagine her speaking with fire in her voice, her pain transformed into power. And now, I want you to remember this, her story isn't just hers. It belongs to every one of us who has been tied down by fear, mocked by others, or pushed into shadows. Leah showed that you can cut the rope. You can free yourself. And in doing so, you can inspire others to do the same. So if you've ever felt invisible, if you've ever been mocked, or if you've ever been made to feel less than you are, remember Leah's story. Remember the girl who cut the rope. And remember that you have that same fire inside you, waiting to rise. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like and subscribe to Echoes of Life for more powerful true-to-life stories that remind us of the courage we all carry within. And I'd love to hear your thoughts. Share in the comments below if you've ever faced a moment where you had to cut your own rope, and how it changed you. Because Leah's story isn't just about survival, it's about transformation. And maybe, just maybe, yours is too.